What is precession of the equinoxes? My name is Demian, and this is Growing Together. When we observe the night sky, there's an additional and more elusive motion known as precession of the equinoxes that is extremely slow and that we observe in all the stars. Basically, we observe the night sky shift backwards in precession about 1 degree every 72 years. And also, that motion is accelerating. The fact that it's accelerating is very important, but I'll explain that later. If we isolate this motion, we would observe everything moving in a huge circle that takes about 26,000 years to complete, according to our current calculations. Many of our ancient ancestors knew about precession. Their explanations for what they observed involved the sun being in a binary orbit with something else. However, they explained it with stories of dark gods and apocalypse. Some describe a huge snake dragon or a dark god that is in conflict with the sun god. Many stories about precession end in a terrible cataclysmic event where the sun god is consumed by this dark snake god, followed by an age of supernatural renewal. I'm simplifying what the ancients said about precession because different cultures that understood it have slightly different takes on that same story. But what is similar is that they explained the motion of precession as the sun being in a binary orbit with a dark partner. By the time Newton came along, such silly ideas of dark gods and sun-consuming snakes had seriously gone out of style. But more importantly, a binary orbit for our sun was easily dismissed by the simple fact that when they looked, they didn't find anything. But Newton didn't know about black holes. So Newton, in his genius, came up with an explanation for precession that removes dark gods and sun-consuming snakes. He revived Hipparchus's explanation for precession and called it the lunisolar wobble theory. And it states that the cause of precession is the gravitational effect of the sun and the moon on the Earth that causes the Earth's axis to wobble and in turn causes us to observe all the stars and the constellations moving in a 26,000-year cycle in the night sky. The scientific community has accepted Newton's lunisolar wobble theory as the most probable cause for this motion, even though it has been disproven and the evidence is widely ignored. One way to think about the lunisolar wobble theory is for you to make a circle with your fingers like this and choose a fixed point in the night sky, like so. Then, by wobbling your head, you can cause the fixed point in the night sky to move in a circle lining your fingers. What you see by wobbling your head is how the Earth supposedly wobbles on its axis. But the most glaring piece of evidence that disproves the lunisolar wobble theory is that we observe precession occurring for everything outside of our solar system. But if the Earth were wobbling on its axis, we would also observe a measurable motion for all the planets in our solar system and the Sun as well. And we do not observe that motion. We only observe the motion of precession for everything outside of our solar system, and modern science ignores this glaring problem. I would bet everything I own that if we simply observe the constellations from anywhere else in our solar system apart from the Earth, we would still observe precession. This means that precession is not caused by a wobbling Earth, and all theories that claim that precession is caused by a wobbling Earth are incorrect. But already, the fact that precession is not observed in our local solar system completely debunks Newton's lunisolar wobble theory. And that is just the tip of the iceberg. In the description, you'll find links to more elaborate explanations of why the lunisolar wobble theory is simply incorrect, including the distribution of comets, the lunar cycle, the conservation of angular momentum, the sheer edge of our solar system, and much, much more, just to name a few. Each of these require their own video to properly explain, but if you don't want to wait around for my videos, check the links in the description. Let's go back to the example of the fixed point in the sky and the circle with your fingers. If you don't wobble your head and your hand is fixed, what is the only other way to make the fixed point in the sky move in a circle lining your fingers? If you don't know the answer, pause the video and think about it for a second to see if you can come up with a solution. Basically, to make the fixed point move in a circle lining your fingers, you can move your entire body in a large circle instead of wobbling your head. To cause the fixed point in the sky move the same way, you'll have to walk a little bit to achieve the same result. That would be equivalent to the Earth being carried by the Sun in a larger circle, because the Sun is in orbit around a black hole partner, not just the Earth, but all the planets as well. That's why if the binary orbit is the cause of precession, we would also observe precession on all the planets as well. And if we looked, I bet we would. So if precession isn't caused by the Earth wobbling on its axis, the only other way to explain this motion is by the Sun carrying us and all the planets with it as it orbits around an undiscovered black hole partner. Precession itself is evidence that supports a binary orbit for our solar system, and I believe that this orbit is also the cause of our observations of dark matter and dark energy. Check out the Matthew hypothesis, which explains why what we observe there is also caused by this binary orbit. Earlier, I stated that the motion of precession is accelerating and that this was very important because it tells us a lot about the solar system's orbit. A binary elliptical orbit has two phases. The reason why we can determine that the solar system is heading towards periapsis instead of apoapsis is because the motion of precession is accelerating. This would occur in a binary orbit as it heads towards periapsis, as you can see with the example. I think we could also rule out any type of star or large planet for this orbit. A star or a large planet would be easy to find, and we've actually been looking for other reasons, like the mysterious additional gravitational pull within our solar system that is unaccounted for, which further enforces the Matthew hypothesis. I'll be making more videos about that as well. This black hole partner could be much more elusive because of its extremely small size. If it had the same mass as the Sun, it would have a radius of about the length of Central Park in New York. Forrest Gump can jog across Central Park in 15 minutes. However, it would take Forrest Gump his entire lifetime to run across the Sun. That's the difference in size between a black hole with the mass of the Sun. But I don't think that's the reason why we haven't found it, and I'll get into that in depth in another video as well. Let me know what you think in the comments, like, subscribe, and I'll see you soon.
Where the hell's this God of yours?
It's funny Lieutenant Dan said that, because right then, God showed up.